It's Ducky, and in today's video we are back in the How Much Art Can You Make by the wonderful Chantal Arts. And in this video we'll be doing 3 prompts as usual, so let's get into it. How many pixels? Fill this page with pixel art only. So I have a grid drawn out and we have our reference photo. Let's get into it. I spent too long trying to decide what photo I wanted to use to make a pixel painting, and I decided I really wanted to have a go at doing one of my partner, and I tried pixelating a lot of photos and realised you need a photo that has good contrast, otherwise you can't really make anything out. I have watched Not Grace live for probably about 3 years, so I learned a lot from them about making pixel paintings. I thought using acrylic markers instead of paintbrushes would be easier, especially at this scale. We'll see if that was the case later on. So to make the grid and work out the size of the pixel, you have to take the length of the canvas and divide it by the number of pixels, and then again with the height, and that will give you the size of the pixel. Please check out Grace's videos because they explain it far better than I ever could. And I went with 0.6mm by 0.6mm for each square because I didn't have to fit it to an exact canvas size, and at the size I was working on, I needed to make it somewhat easy for myself. And I undertook the arduous process of drawing out that grid off camera. I did not expect how long this art would take, but I very quickly realised this was not going to be a quick piece. I was not enjoying quite how small these squares were. I started counting squares and realised something wasn't adding up, and somehow I had missed like 7 or 8 rows at least of my grid. So I had to go in and fix that. Luckily I hadn't got too far into painting this thing, otherwise that would have been a nightmare. At first I was just going in with some base block colours to map out the different areas of the picture before I started adding in different pixel variations and details, so that I didn't have to do as much counting, and that went pretty smoothly, even if it went quite slowly. But the minute I started adding in the shade variation, I realised the issue with using acrylic markers for this, instead of mixing acrylic paints. I may have a good selection of colours with my EMNI markers and my few Poscas I have left. However, there is a limitation to colour selection with any markers, and I really struggle to get those nice gradients I've seen in Grace's paintings, and just in pixel art in general. I had to make a lot of substitutions. I think once I worked out how I was using the different colours, the background, the clothes and the hair came out pretty good. I especially like how the grass in the background looked, but then I got to the faces and oh my god, well that was difficult. Especially my face, because my glasses kind of made the face look a bit odd, I changed the colours of the pixels so many times trying to get it to look somewhat okay, and I definitely needed more shades to do it properly, but I think I managed it well enough with the shades I did have. So that brings me to, do I think this is easier with acrylic paint markers or paintbrushes? And the answer is it depends. For colour matching, it would be easier to mix paints to get better matches. However, not everyone is great at that, and in all honesty, I haven't done painting with acrylic paints in a good while myself, so I don't know if I'd be great at it anymore. When it comes to making the squares crisp, I think brush markers probably are easier than paintbrushes, but the Posca markers were awful for making crisp edges. One, because a lot of them are nearly dead and quite dry, so they need more layers, but also the nibs were too big and bulky to make the lines crisp. So I had to use my brush markers to clean up the edges. And lastly, at this scale, I think paintbrushes would have been an absolute nightmare. So I think I made the right choice for this piece. Will I do another pixel artwork at this scale? Absolutely not, never again, and I will also never do a pixel artwork with brush markers ever again either. I want to do some pixel artwork when I have a house, that I've known for a while. Possibly recreate some Minecraft paintings. That will be on nice biggish canvases and not less than A4 in a prompt book. The last thing I wanted to do was add a little bit of a border, a bit like a Minecraft painting, but I decided to go with a gold border to make it fancy. While I do normally hate on my Posca pens, I do absolutely love my metallic ones. They are the exception. I always try to put a yellow base down under the gold Posca just to help it pop more. I think if you put different colour underneath it, you could possibly get a different effect, like maybe an orange or brown to make it look a bit more antique gold, or maybe a blue underneath a bronze copper coloured Posca could give it a bit of an oxidised look. I haven't tried this out though, so it might not show through at all, but it's an idea and I might have to give it a try. Okay, so this is the final piece. I'm not going to stick it in just yet because I need to cut it in half and I want to scan it before I cut it in, which will be the same for all the pieces in this video. And my scanner is at my house, so you'll have to see at the end when they are all stuck in. Let's go on to the next one. What's bubbling? Draw something that pops or bubbles. Here is my sketch. I absolutely love it. I took forever on this. Let's get into it. Instantly, I saw the prompt, what's bubbling, and a cauldron was the obvious answer to me. I don't think it's any secret to anyone who follows me that I love the witchy aesthetic, and I really pushed myself with this piece. I recently watched a video by the lovely Julia McNeil where they were talking about how much they love using the alcohol markers in conjunction with paint markers. And I really wanted to give this a try. For some reason, I just haven't done that. So I thought for this piece I'd try out using my Ahua markers for the background and then my enemy markers for the foreground to try and give some separation between the two. I was obsessed with this idea of a window with a clock face over it. I know I've seen it on Pinterest somewhere at some point, and I decided to make it even witchier to make it look like a galaxy, spacey outside. I love the way alcohol markers blend together. It just looks so blurry and pretty. I did this sketch digitally and then traced it onto the paper, and I feel like it looks like a colouring page. I love it, and I would love to someday release some colouring pages or maybe even a whole book. I filled this bookcase with lots and lots of different sized and coloured books and bottles, along with a bird skull, a trailing plant, a gold photo frame, and a snow globe, even though that one did end up getting a little bit cut off. I also added some apothecary style drawers here and there to break up the bookcase and make it look less perfect and more like it was built from scratch by the witch over time. On a side note, I would love to have one of those apothecary chests or like drawers or chest of drawers or whatever they're called. They're so pretty, but they're so expensive nowadays. For colouring the background, I did pass of a base colour over each object, and once it was dry I went in a slightly darker colour to add some dimension. This is how you get a lot more crisp details with alcohol markers. I see a lot of people struggle with alcohol markers, and I think it often comes down to two different things. Firstly, when people are trying to create smooth gradients, often they're just not moving fast enough. When creating a gradient, you want to have 2 or 3 colours you're using and have the lids off and them all in your hands at the same time, and just keep moving. Make sure you're saturating the page enough to make it wet, because once it dries you won't be able to make as smooth a gradient. So moving too slowly is your issue here. But the second issue I see is people moving too fast. Let me explain. When you want to create details, you need the area you're drawing on to be completely dry and working in small areas. If you're not finished adding details, but you can see the page getting wet or colour spreading, stop, let it dry, then go in and add your details. It might be that you have to do this a couple of times to get all the details you want in. I like to jump around and work on multiple parts of a piece at once, so that I'm not just sitting there waiting for a piece to dry. Although, in fairness, I do that with any piece of art anyway, because I have attention problems. And here I had a visit from one of the cats. Apologies, I did not catch them on camera. Okay.
She thought the paper was the edge, so she's just ripped your paper because the paper is not the edge of the desk.
You okay there, Bandit? I'm feeling a bit embarrassed.
Apex predator behaviour right there.
Then we went in with the enemy markers and a little Posca. I felt like this clock had to be a golden bronze colour, so I went in with that first. I did a layer of yellow marker first, but I wasn't recording for that, and my raw footage for this video was over 8 hours anyway, so I don't think it really matters. I managed to do 3 pieces that all took forever, and for some reason I didn't think they would. Probably because of that damn there's never too much gene. I did end up also using my Posca for the cauldron, just because I didn't want to waste my black Enley marker on such a big black area when I have a big black Posca. It just made sense to use the Enley marker around the edge and in any detail areas, but the Posca for the big bulk of the area. I really wanted to give this an aged look with some brown and bronze colours. I think the effect works well. For the acrylic marker portion of this piece, I chose to do a base colour and then add a couple shadow and or highlight shades as I saw fit. I especially love how this looks on the hair. I've been doing a lot of darker skin tones recently, and that's mainly because I think all skin tones are beautiful, and I want my art to reflect that. I have been really trying to learn how to do skin tones other than my own well, and it's been a journey, but I definitely think I'm doing a lot better. I do still really need to practice hairstyles that aren't straight hair though. Given I have curly hair, you'd think I would have practiced it more, but I really need to practice curly hair and protective hairstyles more. I absolutely love this witch hat with all the dangly stars on it. I think it looks so magical. Okay, here's the final piece. Again, I'm not cutting it half until I've scanned it, so you'll just have to pretend it's in the book until the end of the video. Let's go on to the next one. What's that pattern? Include a fun pattern somewhere in this piece. And here's a sketch I drew, so let's get into it. So the prompt says to include a pattern, and for some reason I decided to include all the patterns. I thought a patchwork dress that flowed across the page was a really fun idea. I did not think about how long this would take in reality. At first coming up with the patterns was really easy, but I'd say a third of the way into it I started struggling and had to look at some inspiration. Are there any patterns you can think of that I should have included? I also definitely did have some crossovers where I duplicated patterns but just did them in different colours. We had another visit from one of the cats. This time it was Cookie. I managed to get her on camera, so here's the obligatory cat tags for you guys. Luckily, I had the good idea to make the dress checkered with the squares alternating with pattern and flat colour. Otherwise, I think this drawing may have been thrown out the window. I did some very traditional patterns like paisley, stripes, checkers, diamonds, florals, and spots. But I also did some pretty fun ones like a lemon slice repeating pattern, I did an 80s arcade floor kind of pattern, a cloud pattern, and just so many others. I decided to go a bit mixed media with this piece again, using those alcohol markers along with my acrylic markers. I'm using the alcohol markers on the pattern squares, and I'm just trying to use as many colours as possible and really space all the colours out. I made sure to use the same colour in different areas across the dress to try and keep it looking cohesive. And I think I did a fairly good job of that. I used my skin tone practice sheet I made in another video for this skin tone. Honestly, it's one of the favourite skin tones I've made with Ahoo's. It's such a beautiful deep red skin tone. And I then went with this gorgeous blue hair because, shock horror, I find normal hair colours boring. I don't think anyone could have guessed that from me. I was planning on doing the solid squares in random colours, a bit like the other squares, but then I was like, I could do a rainbow gradient. I have all the colours to do it, and it's Pride Month. Let's go rainbow. The one bit where I broke the rule on using alcohol markers for the patterns was the moon and star diamond pattern I did, which I used a yellow acrylic marker to do moon and stars, mainly because I messed up whilst drawing out the pattern in fine liner and did two stars next to each other. But I absolutely love this square. I think it's my favourite out of them all. Let me know which pattern is your favourite. I love how the gradient came out at the end. I thought I had messed it up, but actually it worked perfectly for the tan and beige colours I hadn't used yet. And here's the final result of this one. Again, I will scan it, cut it in half, and then you'll see it in a second. So in today's video, we made a pixel artwork of me and my partner. We drew what's bubbling, a lovely little witch in her potion room or apothecary room, and we made a pattern and we created this really cool pattern dress. Okay, that's all 3 prompts done. Let me know which one was your favourite. I think, oh, it's difficult. This week was a really good one. I really like all of the pieces. I definitely think the witch one is probably my favourite. This has been a very long video to edit and film. I did not expect it to take this long, but yeah, I had nearly 8 hours footage in this video, so thank you for watching. I think this video will be a bit longer than usual, but I think I managed to get it down to a reasonable size, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!